So anything you want to ask Clay, Anthony?
I don't know. You put me on the spot here.
No, I know. No, because let the audience get to know Clay, because Clay is really awesome. If you, again, he is from Kirkus Reviews.
Yes, thank
podcast. You have a very NPR kind of vibe. Is this a voice that comes, because I tend to talk really fast, so I have to kind of like bring myself back to kind of talk very slow. And is it enunciate or pronunciate? I always forget. Enunciate my words, because I mumble a lot. Well, does that come naturally to you, or is it something you had to like learn?
I mean, I remember my grandfather when I was younger telling me to stop talking so fast. So I guess I practiced it for a long time to not talk quite so fast. But, I've learned when hosting a podcast that it really should just feel to the audience like they're just overhearing an interesting conversation, which is like what we have just done. And so, when you're talking to a friend and you're not being recorded, you would not naturally talk really fast, right? You would just be in a sort of a low-key conversation.
No, I would talk really fast.
Okay. Well, you're weird. But so I just try to replicate that, to make it like a low-key conversation. And so I tend to talk slower.
See, to me, whenever I hear Clay talk, I don't know about you, it seems more like a boudoir kind of thing, where it's like, you trying to sell me a dodo? Or you're like narrating this like really sexy like porn.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Not like that's a bad thing.
All right.
It's not a bad thing, because I really enjoy the way you speak. I feel like I can learn some things. I don't know how about you, Anthony. I feel like Anthony does a really great job speaking. I love listening to Anthony speak.
I got to slow down a lot. What? So you review books, right?
Yeah, we review actually about 10,000 books a year.
So what is the last, I'm not sure this is a very difficult question. You probably get asked this all the time, but what's the last book you read that you really just could not put down and really just took you somewhere else?
No, I mean, that's a great question, and it's actually easy to answer in this case. And it's David Grann, who's a writer for The New Yorker, wrote, he published in April a nonfiction book called Killers of the Flower Moon. And he had a major bestseller a few years ago with another nonfiction book called The Lost City of Z, which became a movie that Amazon Studios just released a few months ago. But Killers of the Flower Moon is about the massacre of some Osage Indians in northeast Oklahoma in the 1920s. And the U.S. government, just to tell you about the book briefly, had sort of sent these Indians to a reservation in Oklahoma and basically abandoned them. And then it was, the Indians bought the land, and it turned out that there were vast, vast amounts of oil under the land. And so in the 20s, they were the richest people in the entire world. And they were, these Osage Indians had drivers, they had a ton of staff in their households, and they all got a check each month. And that's when they started being murdered. Some of them were poisoned, some of them were shot. And he follows this investigation. And I mean, at the time, like this was, front page news in the New York Times and papers around the world. And it's a totally forgotten crime today for a number of reasons. And so he sort of tracks down the killers. And then at the end of the book, you go along and you think it's this one killer. And I won't give anything away, but at the end of the book, he reveals a whole, through his investigation, he reveals a whole new set of facts that really, it is a very difficult book to put down. I really love it.
I'm going to read that next.
What's yours, Anthony?
What?
The book that just like got you staying up till like 5 o'clock in the morning.
Well, right now I just finished Jurassic Park in like 2 days. I never read it before. It's so good. I finished like in 2 days. What's one of my favorite books?
You could say Jurassic Park. You don't have to.
No, yeah. I really like.
You're thinking about that. Can I told Eric about this, but so this past week I've been at Book Expo America, which is the publishing industry's like major, show, like convention for the entire year.
Was this something you went on your own time, or was it for your job that you went to this?
It was for my job.
Okay.
And what happens, it's in New York, and you walk through this convention center, and all the various publishers have these big booths, and they have their books on display. And these are books that'll be like out later this summer and the fall, and even next year. And I just happened to come across this one publisher, and they're going to publish a book on August 8th called RuPaul's Drag Race, the Paper Doll Book. And the book is going to be, let's see, $18.95. And it has 10 punch-out paper dolls. So it has Bibi Zahara Benet, Tyra Sanchez, Raja, Sharon Needles, Jinx Monsoon, Bianca Del Rio, Violet Chachki, and Bob the Drag Queen. And you can take the drag queens and like dress them up and just punch them out of the paper book. So I think it's totally awesome, and I think everybody should look for it in August.
Yeah, playing dress up with your favorite drag queen.
Yeah.
Those are all the winners, right? I believe that's the
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you, but I
No,
wanted
not
to
at all.
make sure that everybody knows about that.
Yeah,
book.
that's awesome.
Yeah. So
That's cool.
Clay, you're new to the whole podcasting, so you said you were kind of nervous so we're just going to like an interview about Clay now, right? I want to get to know more about you. I think
We should publish this separately.
I was thinking about that, but he mentioned the whole doll thing, so I might just put it together.
Okay. It would still be under like the RuPaul thing. I think you could do like a...
Oh, okay, like a little, okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking, okay, we'll see what happens,
Yeah.
right? So how has like doing the podcast, like as you progress, you're getting less nervous? Like who's been your kind of favorite person to interview?
Definitely John Waters.
Oh my God, you interviewed John Waters?
The like outrageous filmmaker and wit. Yeah, he's great.
Give us something that he's done, so if people don't know who John Waters is, like they can kind of look up his work.
So John Waters is famous for being sort of the most the filmmaker with the worst taste in America, although he's an extremely smart filmmaker and a really funny, interesting guy. And actually, he's friends with RuPaul. But he Pink Flamingos is one of his films. Serial Mom, that has Kathleen Turner.
Oh, I love Serial Mom.
Hairspray is his most famous thing, and the musical was taken from the.
Oh, he's
movie.
that guy that it's like very skinny, right? With the painted on eyebrows kind of thing, right? Is that him?
He's more known for his pencil mustache.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
So at Kirkus Reviews, we don't review movies, we don't review plays, we just review books. And at the end, in I guess May of 2015, he was asked to give the graduation speech at the Rhode Island School of Design, one of the best design schools in the nation. And it went viral because he was basically telling the audience how to be an artist for the rest of their lives. And so Algonquin, which is a publisher in North Carolina and in New York, published it. And because they turned it into a book, I was able to bring him onto the show. And he was great. We even talked about Mike Pence, the vice president, and Mike Pence's wife. And John Waters thinks that Mike Pence is a man baby. An adult baby, I think is the actual term he used. So that was a real highlight of my podcast hosting career.
Nice.
That's awesome. One of my favorite things he ever said, it was in the RuPaul Drives like YouTube series.
Yeah.
And he has John Waters on there. And he ends it with like one of the funniest things I've ever heard. It's a little insensitive, but he's like, so when Ike Turner died, the cover of the New York Times read, Ike beats Tina to death. And that's just how he ends the interview. And I laughed for days.
That is like an iconic fucking headline.
I know. I love John Waters. Yeah, that's so amazing.
And I think it was the New York Post because
the New York
Times
Post,
would never.
not the Times. You're right. The Post. Yeah, right. The Post. The Post always has those crazy ones.
Well,
yeah.
before I interviewed him, I watched that
Yeah.
that video on YouTube. It's a great little snippet
Yeah.
they have together.
They have good energy to them.
Yeah.
Has there been anyone that's kind of disappointed you and you kind of taken back from what you're interviewing?
No, I mean, I've never had one of those moments where where the writer wants to hang up or, isn't sort of forthcoming. I mean, part of that is because, you have to do your homework and that, some writers, and it's understandable if you're interviewing them, and it's probably the same with actors or, musicians, if it's clear that the journalist hasn't done their homework, I think it's really frustrating for them. And so I just read a lot and I just have to be really prepared for it. So tomorrow I'm going to interview Roxane Gay, who is really one of the most exciting writers writing today, period. Like she writes fiction and nonfiction. And
Why do you think she's one of the most exciting?
because she talks in a very sort of frank, she writes in a really honest, candid way. She is, I think, 6'3", and as she says in her new book, Hunger, she at one point was 577 pounds. And, she writes about her struggles with eating and with hunger, and she was raped when she was 12. And so I love the book because it really, that experience hasn't happened to me, but I sort of felt like I was right there with her, an African-American woman who was sort of gang raped at the age of 12. Like, not my story, but she just brought me into it and made me really feel like I was a part of it, which is both terrifying and really nice, So I'm going to interview her tomorrow. I'm a little nervous about that one.
Are you? How much time do you get from like interview date to the like knowing that you're going to interview her?
Well, when we're interviewing bestsellers, I mean, today I interviewed John Grisham, who wrote A Time to Kill and The Firm and The Pelican Brief. Usually with the bestsellers, it's pretty touch and go because their schedules change a lot, and I have to book the studio time here in Austin, and hopefully, like, the best-selling writer is free at the time when I have the studio in East Austin. So that can be difficult, but Kirkus is pretty good at discovering new talent. So each episode, we interview a best-selling writer for about 30 minutes, and then we interview a writer whose debut or just lesser known in the second slot. And it's easier to time things with those writers because they have more time, I guess. Writers like John Grisham have to turn in a thriller a year. And so they sometimes don't do a lot of publicity because they're just constantly writing,
What do you do to get yourself, get the nerves out?
It's a totally boring answer, but it's just something I said before, which is preparation. I don't have any tricks. I know a lot of journalists and really actors and performers have these, and even sports like athletes have these rituals they do. And I just don't really have anything, but I just read the entire book and then I find out what I can about the writer in previous interviews and reviews and that kind of stuff. And that just makes me feel not nervous because if they're going to reference any part of the book or the novel, I'll know what they're talking about. So it's sort of it's a little bit like, that saying about a trial lawyer. A trial lawyer doesn't ask the person, the witness, a question unless the lawyer knows what that person is going to say. And it's not exactly the same in interviewing. I mean, I want them to say something new and fresh and really interesting, but I have to be ready enough to follow them with whatever they say, with whatever road they want to go down. I have to have read enough to be able to follow them.
Does your co-host kind of make you more comfortable in these situations, or do you not interview together all the time?
We do. She joins via Skype. She lives in Portland, Oregon, and she's great. She's really my main interviewer. And so we have a great rapport, and the chemistry is so crucial, between you two.
Were you all friends before?
No. I went to graduate school at NYU to a really interesting little program called Cultural Reporting and Criticism. And it's in the graduate journalism department, and you can do broadcast journalism or newspaper or magazine or literary reporting or environmental reporting. And I chose cultural reporting and criticism. And when I was hired by Kirkus, I went to my professor and said, I'm looking for some people who want to interview writers. And Megan totally has that hustle. And she, asked me if she could write for me. And she did a great job. And then I just kept giving her more and more stories to do.
I like Megan. I don't think you've heard the podcast yet, but I recommend listen to it.
Yeah, I'm going to.
But
absolutely.
she kind of reminds me a little bit like me, where she's this Spitfire kind of bitch.
Yeah.
And she's I like her.
Yeah, she's got the hustle for sure. Yeah.
So are you more comfortable? Do you see yourself progressing in this podcast? Do you want to do this for a long time? Do you see another career you might want to take now experiencing the podcast kind of world?
It's interesting because I go on the radio on the Texas Standard, which for listeners who don't know, that's a public radio program here in Texas that starts from KUT, the public radio station in Austin, but it is sent to all the public radio stations in the state. And so once a month or so, they interview me about books and which books people should be reading. And sometimes we talk about Texas writers and sometimes not. But it's a very short, like 4 or 5 minute segment. And I go in and I do it and I really enjoy it. But a podcast, what you want to do each hour is so malleable, and you can change things up, and it's not that difficult to change things up. And if you want to drop a segment of the podcast that's not working, you can do that. I just love it because there's so much more free form than, broadcast radio. So I love it for that. And so we're thinking about that very thing. At our podcast is called Fully Booked, and it's from Kirkus Reviews. And we're thinking about how we want to change it up. If
we just went from a RuPaul's Drag Race to an episode of STER on the Road. Like, seriously, you can do anything you want with podcasts.
Yeah.
So is there anyone knocking on your door? Because I think you're a very talented
thank you.
Host. Is there anyone that as you're getting offers for anywhere, to host shows or anything like that?
I do get asked to moderate, a lot of book events, like public events, and I enjoy that. But if you want to be my publicist and get people to knock on my door, I would be happy for you to do that.
That's probably more like Anthony's lane, not so much mine.
Oh,
I
right.
wouldn't even
You're
know.
in marketing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have a great voice.
Isn't it, though?
Particularly, yeah.
As soon as I heard it, I was like, okay, I need him to be on the show.
It's gonna be good. It's gonna be a calm energy to our chaotic energy. You're gonna calm. It's gonna be a calm episode. It's gonna be,
whenever he
good.
speaks, my whole heart rate slows down, my body, I just kind of when you get a massage, you just kind of slow down.
Yeah.
And then
Nice.
my next segment goes in really slow. Then I start going really fast once I forget that Clay spoke already.
I feel like you could do a meditation podcast.
Yeah.
I feel like you could be breathe in.
Yeah.
I feel that would be
do
good.
you plan on kind of producing your own podcast on the side?
Oh my gosh.
Anything you'd want to do?
I wish I had time, man, but I'm so busy with producing the magazine and the podcast. I'm totally happy where I am right now, but maybe, I don't know.
So if you were going
You
to
got me
make
thinking,
if you were
maybe
going to
down the
make a
road.
podcast on your own show, what would it be about?
Oh, it would totally be about Pee Wee Herman.
Really? Explain.
I am the world's biggest Pee Wee Herman fan.
Why?
I just think that Pee Wee's Playhouse in particular is a really smart children's show, and the way that he was sort of trashed by, the police in Florida and just Americans at large was totally unfair. And this was in the early 90s when he was caught at a what do you call it, adult theater, masturbating, and it just kind of ended his career. And for him to have, it's taken a lot of years, but of course he released a Pee Wee Herman movie this spring through Netflix, or was it last spring? I don't remember.
It was last spring.
Yeah, last year. So it's really great to see him come back, and I just think that he did a lot of great things for kids in the 90s and in the 80s.
So how do you feel about the kind of kids shows that are on now? A little too dumbed down kind of for them?
I'll be cooking on Saturday morning or just, doing stuff around the house, and I'll see all these kids programs come on, and they all say E/I in the corner, which stands for educational or informational, which is great in one way, but I kind of feel like it's really a shame that broadcasters of kids shows feel like they have to stuff, quote education and quote information down kids' throats. I mean, which is so great that Pee Wee Herman, his imagination ran so wild, and I think that teaches kids more than giving them dry facts about this or that.
Did he have a lot of input in his own show?
Oh yeah, he totally created them.
Nice.
Himself. He really kind of built his own mini empire, I guess.
So if you were so you said you would do a Pee Wee Herman kind of podcast or show, right? What would the episodes entail? How would you lead us on this journey?
This is a really interesting question because I don't know if you all have been following, and I don't remember the name of it, but there's this podcast about Richard Simmons.
Oh, yeah.
That,
I knew you were going to know what this was. I knew you were going to know.
Riveting.
yeah, which has been really controversial because it Richard Simmons, for people who don't know, has sort of seemed to have disappeared in the past year or two.
You told me about this, right?
Yeah, it's so good.
A couple episodes ago.
Yeah, and so this podcast sort of, in the way that like we're dissecting each episode of Drag Race, this guy who hosted it is like dissecting Richard Simmons' life, and it's a very different thing to do that to a TV show like we have just done than it is to do that to a person. And he has the journalistic right to do that, but he's getting a lot of flack now for sort of crossing the line into like a creepy exploitation question. So I would not do that, is what I'm saying.
Okay, I was like, are you going to do that? Like,
no. So I would talk. One of the great things
respectful?
And Paul Rubens, who is Pee-wee Herman, has done such a great job of collecting a lot of great comedic talent around him. Like Phil Hartman was on Pee-wee's Playhouse. A lot of people don't know that. Just a lot of talented actors, and I would interview them. I would hope to get him on the show. It would be all things Pee-wee.
Nice.
Yeah.
So for someone who hasn't really experienced Pee-wee Herman, I think it was a little bit past my time, or maybe I was really poor. I might not have had cable at the moment.
Right.
Does it hold up over time, the show, if I was to go back and watch it?
It does, because it's so unique. There's just nothing like it. And when it was on in the 80s, it was broadcast. It was network TV. So you could, I don't remember if it was CBS or NBC or ABC or which of them. But of course, now of course you have to find episodes where you can. And I think they're on Netflix. But yeah, sorry, what was the question?
Does it hold up over time?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. It does. It does, because it.
I hope you're more like attentive on your podcast than you are like right now.
Sorry. Yeah, it does hold up, because it's interesting because at one and the same time, it's a total time capsule from the 80s. You can totally tell it was done in the 80s. But it also, the story it tells each episode is really fresh, and nothing before it in kids programs had happened, and nothing like it since. So it's very much its own creature, and I really respect it.
So it sounds like he had quite an impact on your childhood. So like how did he influence you when you were kind of growing up with Pee-wee Herman? Did he kind of like, do you still see anything in you from him?
Well, yeah. A sort of sense of humor, I would say, would be my first response to that. I also think in a weird way, of course, when I was in the fifth grade or whatever, however old I was when those shows were on, I wasn't thinking about being gay. I didn't really have that consciousness at that time. But there is something so outrageous about his behavior on each episode that I guess it did give me a little bit of confidence to think that, like, here's this totally weird dude who's made a total name for himself, and people respect him for this. People pay him a lot of money to be like this. And of course, I don't go around like dressed up like Pee-wee Herman, but it gave me some sort of early confidence that the world is more interesting than the world that was set out for me.
I think you should actually produce this podcast. I think for you to still have this much love for him after his show has been gone, there might be other people out there with the same kind of sentiment. Like they want to hear, or they just want to enjoy a show about him. Yeah. You should look into it. I mean, even if it's like 5-minute episodes here and there, like check it out. How did Pee-wee influence your life, Anthony? I
was a little young. My brother watched it. I was a little young for that. But I do remember a lot of it. And didn't he have like a few movies or something?
Yeah.
Right?
Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Yeah.
Was his first one.
Yeah.
So
when I see him, I have very like vague memories of it, but I can the kind of emotion I get from it is like when I would see myself in these home videos, I'm like, ooh, you would see how gay I was in the videos, and I was a little bit embarrassed for myself. That's almost the same vibe I got with Pee-wee Herman, but it was like less like embarrassed and more like, wow, you're doing your own thing out there. It's a little weird. Not something I was ready to like show myself as, but respected him, be it subconsciously, on what he was doing. Mm-hmm. So, and I don't know much about him. Yeah. And he was gay, right?
from all that I know, I think.
Yeah,
he's
I mean,
gay,
it would be nice to see more about these like kind of gay icons that we have in our world that we don't know much about. Like, I wouldn't mind listening to it. It'd be pretty cool.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, Barry Manilow, who everybody has like.
I just found out he
secretly
was
know.
gay this year.
I know he just came out this year officially, but people have known forever, and so he just came out this year like, hello. We've known.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
We'll accept you.
I heard that on a podcast. I was like, Barry Manilow. I couldn't think of his face. I had to Google it. I was like, oh my God, he's gay. And I like when a lot of artists start to come out as gay because it just seems like it's more welcoming for me to do my own thing. Not that I'm scared to do my own thing, but it just feels like when you have this group amongst you that are part of the world that you are, that you just feel a bit more empowered.
Yeah.
Because that's how I felt when I did Photo Hoto for like when I went to San Francisco. I was part of the show for the photographer over there, Fabian. I forget his last name because I'm a little intoxicated right now. But so there was something about being on the dance floor with all these like hotos that were part of the show that just made me feel like I could conquer the world. And that's really nice when I see kind of those people come out with, be it in sports, be it as like podcasters, hosts, and it's like actors. I love seeing these people and knowing more about them.
Yeah.
Because it just makes me feel like I can do anything, you know? I don't know about you guys.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Empowering.
So who's your figure?
My
Anthony,
figure.
that you're-
Lady Gaga.
Well, no, no. My Pee Wee Herman would be Selena.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If we're
would be
speaking as a
ours,
gay
yeah.
like a gay person, like if there's someone like, okay, so that's your like straight kind of person. Like
That's
you're-
my childhood. Like,
yeah, like
idol.
your person. I feel the same way. I feel like
Selena
she
influenced everything
yeah,
about
she
my
made
childhood.
yeah.
Are you
same.
from South Texas?
Yeah, I'm from McAllen, Texas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I saw her live actually a few months before she died. Yeah.
Okay, so I did not know this, Clay, that he just saw her live, and I hate him a little
I've
bit.
told you this before.
You probably told me when I was drunk.
Oh,
like
yeah.
that makes me want to cry right now.
Yeah, it was a few months before she died. Yep.
How was it? Was it everything and everything?
I was really young. I was maybe like 6. But
Okay.
I remember my dad had me on his shoulders
I think we've had.
and watching.
Wow. Well, actually,
really
it's coming
far
back
back,
to me. I think we've had this conversation. I was totally drunk whenever you told me.
But like,
Because you told me
gay
about how
idol,
you
I
would
don't know.
die about, you were like, you would dance
Yeah.
to Selena songs. And your mom was like, she knew you were gay.
Yeah, she would like let me do it, and like she would like wait for my dad for leave, and then she'd put like my Selena videos on.
Oh, yeah.
And like let me just be myself whenever my dad was gone. I don't know if I have like a gay icon though. Like,
Oh,
I don't know.
This is like totally gonna date me, and I've been talking a lot, so I'll just say this very.
Well, this is
briefly.
about you right now. So it's
yeah,
okay.
we're fascinated.
But it is relevant now because the Wonder Woman movie is out. And so Wonder Woman was a series, as you probably know, with Linda Carter in the 70s, I guess. And I used to put on my Spider-Man underoos and watch. I was like so excited for each new episode of Wonder Woman. And I think I thought that I was like helping her in her cause by wearing the Spider-Man
So you
underoos.
say you're not superstitious, but I'm like, your words are telling me otherwise. Like their stories are making me believe you are very superstitious.
Yeah. I know. Follow my actions, not what I say.
So what did you help her achieve? Like,
I
tell me.
just helped her do a much better job.
Okay.
She would have otherwise.
She needed some help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I tell you mine? I couldn't tell you like, okay, it's not really a figure per se. I probably have one, but right now I would have to think about it. But it is, as a child, one thing that sticks out in my life is on MTV they would have those two gay duo superheroes, and they would have the huge like bulges, and they would have a lot of these homosexual undertones. And I don't know if I initially saw it, or maybe I did, and I just don't remember. But for me, that impacted me a lot. I mean, seeing a gay kind of like these like an actual relationship, be it cartoon, it didn't matter. Seeing that relationship on screen, like to me, it just touched me so much.
Yeah.
And when I saw that, and I didn't see I saw it like twice because they didn't show it all the time. But I don't know, it just played a big part of my life. Like I can remember it always and forever.
You're talking about the ambiguously gay duo, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that was Mad TV, wasn't it?
Was it Matt TV?
No, I think it was Saturday Night Live.
Was it Saturday Night Live?
Oh, I said
okay.
It
I
feels
said
much
MTV.
more like a Mad TV.
Yeah.
It's like a little bit more outrageous usually than Saturday Night Live.
It was
usually
very
does.
phallic. I remember. Yeah. There's a lot of.
That was like the first time I actually saw like two guys being very sexual. Or there was like these kind of like undertones about it, and I
Yeah.
loved it because
Yeah.
you didn't see that a lot on TV.
Right.
Even if you saw it
Ever.
like further after that, it might have been like Will and Grace, but even then it was like still kind of very conservative, you know?
Yeah. And couched in humor.
Yeah. So that was kind of mine. I don't know if I had an
Nice.
actual person that helped me identify myself or make me feel confident.
Yeah.
Oh, but Selena for sure, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
I gotta pee really bad, so I think we should end this. Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for having me. I really
Yeah.
loved it.
I feel like you should come back again whenever Anthony's hosting, because then it'd be like a little bit different kind of vibe. Because I
would
feel
be
like I was a little
happy
bit
to.
strict. I was like, there wasn't really much leeway for us to kind of like have this kind of moment where it felt like very natural.
Yeah. Well, it even took me like the first 3 episodes, you'll hear me fumbling, but I didn't catch my stride until like episode 4 or 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
And also, you kind of sprung this on me, bitch. I was like, fuck, I don't have that much time to prepare for this, you know?
Oh, well, yeah, because yeah, I've been so busy, which is good. I'm glad I'm finally working
You have a
again.
new job.
And yeah, so I was like, here we go.
So,
Yeah.
like, yeah. So, like, from an outside kind of perspective, how do you guys think I did? That I did okay?
Awesome.
Yeah.
You'd like.
Fabulous.
I wish the audience could see these notes you took.
I'm gonna take a picture and post them on the
Yeah.
Instagram fucking show, like for
think
real.
you
No,
should.
no,
Yeah.
no, I won't. But yeah, like whenever I do STER, I feel like STER on the Road, which is the other kind of show that I do, where I interview artists, and I kind of would actually love to talk to you about it, or you to be on it, because you just seem like really cool. I know you don't you're not creating like paintings or music, but you're a gay kind of figure in Austin, and you do like great work. So
you.
I mean, if you'd want to, we can like chat more about it, or this
Yeah.
could be it. You know?
No, I'd be happy to.
Yeah. Anthony, do you have anything to ask Clay? Do you want to like get to know him more?
No, just thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Oh, I
It's
was happy to be here.
Our small little thing that I'm not sure if anyone listens, but it's just fun. It's a creative outlet. And it
Yeah.
just, we do this anyways, so why not record it, you know? Yeah.
I do it to hone my skills because one day you guys don't know it yet, but I'm gonna be the next Oprah, but like the Latina version.
Nice.
Yeah. So this is kind of my practice, and I'm getting ready to like take over the world.
Yep.
And I'm gonna give you a car, and you get a car, and then they get a car, and like you get a car, like for reals.
Nice.
All right. Well, this is the end of our show. This is probably the actual end of the second part of the show because I'm
Yeah.
gonna like take this part out and do it separately. But like what Anthony said, Clay, thank you so much for being on the show. Hope you come back again, maybe like in the finale if you have time.
Yeah.
We can talk about the finale.
I'd love to.
And to see if your pick actually wins or my pick actually wins or if Anthony's pick wins.
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna just go for it and say Trinity. Clay's saying Shay. Anthony, who's your top?
I don't know.
No, don't think about like
Okay.
anything. Think about who you want to win.
I think they're gonna go.
No.
Oh,
Who do? Okay, you can get. We'll say who they think's gonna win, but say right now who you want to win.
Shay.
There you go.
Yeah.
Two Shay, one Trinity. Who thinks gonna win?
Trinity.
It's a Shea Trinity sandwich.
Yeah.
Cool.
Maybe it'll be a double crowning.
Girl, don't get crazy. Don't get crazy. All right. Well, y'all guys have a good one, and thanks for going, Jay. Or
Thank you.
Clay.
Yeah.
It's the vodka.
Clay. Yeah.
It's the vodka. All right. Bye.
Bye.